Hey, Bobby, do you want a face mask for the other ear too?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Here it is. Clogged.
Okay. Good evening. Today is December 21, 2020, and it is now 7 p.m. And this is a meeting of the Troy City Council. And tonight we are going to be led by an invocation by Mr. Todd Siebert, Councilman Siebert, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Now stand, please. Bow our heads. This season has been described as a dark winter, and certainly these times are difficult and trying. However, tonight, a star appeared in our skies for the first time in centuries. A star that over 2,000 years ago illuminated the path to the birthplace of the one who would declare, "I am the light of the world." This song, "The Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine," has been sung for multi-generations of children, expressing the global longing to let light reflect the power of being a good person and trying to make the world a better place. Light is powerful. Light provides clarity and safety. Light draws us together and shines upon us to reveal, despite our differences, that we are truly one body. Light has always defeated darkness. So whether you light a menorah, admire lights twinkling on a tree, or pass the light of a candle as silent night quietly plays, let us all strive to be the light which will dissolve the darkness and, like the star today and centuries ago, illuminate the path towards peace on earth and goodwill towards all. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman Siebert. That was very nice. For those watching at home, you'd usually be watching Council President Bill Lutz, but he is out this evening. So as pro tem, I am stepping in for him. Mrs. Knight, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Twilliger.
Here.
Mrs. Steve.
Here.
Mr. Allen.
Here.
Mr. Siebert.
Present.
Mr. Rozell.
Yes.
Mr. Twist. Mr. Schilling.
Here.
Mr. Swazer.
Here.
Mr. Phillips.
Here.
Move to excuse Mr. Twist.
We have a motion to excuse Mr. Twist. Is there a second? Mr. Schweizer has seconded. I'm sorry.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Sneak.
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Mr. Siebert.
Yes.
Mr. Rozell.
Yes.
Mr. Schilling.
Yes.
Mr. Swazer.
Yes.
Mr. Phillips.
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger.
Yes.
Mr. Twist is excused.
Thank you. Would Mrs. Knight, would you please give us a summary of the minutes of the last council meeting, please?
Minutes of council, December 7, 2020. Public hearing was held on ordinance number 052, 2020. Committee reports. Buildings and Utilities Committee recommended that legislation be prepared authorizing a contract for the new fire station 1 construction project. Community Partnerships Committee recommended legislation be prepared authorizing an agreement with the Community Improvement Corporation for a loan not to exceed $800,000. Community and Economic Development Committee recommended that rezoning ordinances 049, 050, and 051, 2020 be approved. Finance Committee recommended that legislation be prepared urging the Ohio General Assembly to oppose Senate Bill 352 and House Bill 754. Committee also recommended the 2020 budget be adopted, 2021 budget be adopted by preparation of the appropriation ordinance and recommended funding to agencies. Law and Ordinance Committee provided notice of liquor license. Streets and Sidewalks Committee recommended legislation be prepared authorizing vacation of an alley. Committee also recommended an agreement with Strand Associates for additional design for West Main Street, and that legislation be prepared authorizing bidding for the State Route 41 Interconnect project. Resolution number R 68/2020, agreement with Strand Associates for project design West Main Street, first reading and adopted. Resolution number R69, 2020, contract for State Route 41 interconnect project was given first reading and was adopted. Resolution number R70, 2020, bid and contract for Fire Station 1 construction project, first reading and adopted. Resolution number R71, 2020, opposed Senate Bill 352 and House Bill 754, first reading and adopted. Resolution R72, 2020, a loan to the Community Improvement Corporation, first reading and adopted. Resolution number R73, 2020, contract with Recreation Board on funding for 2021, first reading and adopted. Resolution number R74, 2020, funding for Troy Main Street, first reading and adopted. Resolution R75, 2020, funding for Troy Development Council, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 049, 2020, a rezoning was given third reading and adopted. Ordinance 050, 2020, a rezoning was given third reading and adopted. Ordinance number 051, 2020, a rezoning was given third reading and adopted. Ordinance number 052, 2020, rezoning of 212 South Mulberry, second reading. Ordinance 055, 2020, appropriating funds for the year 2020 to reappropriation, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 056, 2020, appropriation 2021, budget adoption, first reading and adopted. Ordinance 057, 2020, alley vacation, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 058, 2020, and annexation in Staunton Township, first reading and adopted. There are following comments, council adjourned at 7:49 p.m.
Barring any additions, corrections, or deletions of the minutes, or council, how do you wish to proceed?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Rozell and a second by Mr. Schilling. Please call the roll, please.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Rozell,
Yes.
Mr. Schilling,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snead.
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Do we have citizen comments at this point? Committee reports first. We have committee reports this evening, and we have the Community and Economic Development Committee, and Mrs. Snee is chair.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Phillips. This committee met on December 14th to review the recommendation of the Troy Planning Commission that the parcel located at 212 South Mulberry Street be rezoned from M2 to B3. This parcel is part of the site of new Fire Station number 1. This committee supports the recommendation of the Troy Planning Commission and recommends that ordinance number 052-2020 be approved to rezone parcel D08 250517 located at 212 South Mulberry Street from M2 Light Industrial District to B3 Central Business District based on the findings of the Planning Commission. And this is respectfully submitted by Mr. Rozell, Mr. Twist, and myself as chair.
Any comments from council on this report? Seeing none, we have a report from the Community Partnerships Committee by Chairman Councilman Rozell.
Thank you, sir. This committee met on December 14th to consider an amendment to the agreement between the city and the Community Improvement Corporation of Troy, Ohio, CIC, related to Lincoln Community Center. The amendment would be to change the lease term to 20 years instead of the current 10-year with a 10-year renewal, and to further clarify maintenance responsibilities of the LCC in the city. The change in the lease term has been requested by the bank from which LCC is securing a short-term bridge loan for the completion of a major expansion project, as some pledges for the project will not be received prior to the completion. This does not create any form of additional obligation on the part of the city. This committee recommends the legislation be prepared, authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety to enter an agreement to the lease with the Community Improvement Corporation of Troy, Ohio regarding Lincoln Community Center, subject to concurring recommendation of the CIC to amend the lease as outlined herein, so that the LCC can close on a loan prior to year end. The committee supports emergency legislation. Respectfully submitted by Zachary Allen, John Schweizer, and myself as chairman.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from council members on this item? Seeing none, you have a second item?
Yes, I do. Yes, we do. This committee also met on December 14th, to consider granting an electrical right-of-way and easement to Dayton Power and Light Company, DPNL, at Lincoln Community Center, which property is owned by the city. As part of the new construction at the center, DPNL requires that an electrical right-of-way and easement be granted by the city, giving DPNL the language needed for egress to the property to install and maintain the electrical facilities. It is recommended by this committee the legislation be prepared, authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety to execute a grant to the Dayton Power and Light Company for electric right-of-way and easement at 110 East Ash Street. This is respectfully submitted by Zach Allen, John Schweizer, and myself, Chairman.
Any comments or questions from anyone on council? Seeing none, we'll move along to the Streets and Sidewalks Committee, as I am the chair. The committee met on December 14th to consider recommending the resolution of necessity for Phase 13 of the sidewalk replacement program. Phase 13 includes approximately 112 parcels where replacement and/or repairs have been identified, as well as sidewalks to be installed at undeveloped properties in Pleasant View Estates, and 3 properties on South Crawford Street where the work was not completed from a previous program. These property owners would be given until February 27 to obtain a permit for the work. Thereafter, the repairs would be made by the city. It is the recommendation of the committee that the resolution of necessity be prepared for Phase 13 of the sidewalk replacement program. And this is respectfully submitted by Mr. Schilling, Mrs. Snee, and myself as chair. Are there any comments or questions on this item from council? At this time, we have citizen comments are open.
Here's another committee report.
Oh, I'm sorry, there is. I didn't have it on my computer. I had it in my hand. I'm sorry.
No problem.
We have
Thank
the
you.
Personnel Committee, Mr. Seaver.
Thank you. The mayor has requested council consent of a new appointment and several reappointments to 3 separate boards as follows. Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund Loan Review Committee, the reappointment of Shirley Snyder for the term of January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2024. On the Board of Zoning Appeals, 3 reappointments, all for terms of January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2025. Those reappointments would be Will Harrelson, Kent Frauenberger, Richard Burns. The third appointment would be for the Community Improvement Corporation, known as the CIC. 5 reappointments, all for the terms of January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2021. William Lukens, Arthur Haddad, Joseph Graves, Edward Westmeyer, and Kathy Vukovic. Also, a new appointment for the term of January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2021 for Gary Fisher. Mr. Fisher is being appointed to fill a vacancy created with Mark Douglas asking not to be reappointed. The new appointee and reappointees have advised the mayor of their willingness to serve on the listed boards.
Does any member of council object to consenting to the appointment and and/or reappointment as stated in a single motion this evening? And if there are no objections, we will need a motion. So are there any?
Move to accept.
Second.
I move that council consents to the reappointment of Shirley Snyder to the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund Loans Review Committee for a term of January 1, 2020 through December 31, 2024. The reappointments of Will Harrelson, Kent Frauenberger, and Richard Burns to the Board of Zoning Appeals, each for terms of January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2025, and the reappointment of William Lukens, Arthur Haddad, Joseph Graves, Edward Westmeyer, and Kathy Vukovic, and the appointment of Gary Fisher to the Community Improvement Corporation, each for the terms of January 1, 2021 through December 31, 2021. May I ask for a second?
Second. It's a motion made by Mr. Sievert and seconded by Mr. Schilling. Mrs. Knight, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Sievert,
Yes.
Mr. Rozell,
Yes.
Mr. Schilling,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snead,
Yes.
Mr. Allen.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Now we will open it up to citizen comments on any of the items listed on the agenda. And just as a reminder, there is a 2-minute time limit, and Mr. Kerber, our city attorney, is the timekeeper for this portion. Anyone wishing to address any of these items? Seeing none, we'll move along to resolutions. Mrs. Knight, would you please read Resolution R76, 2020, please? Sorry.
Resolution number R76, 2020. Resolution declaring the necessity of Phase 13 of the sidewalk replacement program in the city of Troy, Ohio. This is the first step of the program so that we can notify the property owners. First reading.
Thank you. Council,
Move to suspend.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Snead to accept, and Mr. Schweizer was second. Is that correct?
Sounds good.
Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Rozell,
Yes.
Mr. Schilling,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snead,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Siebert.
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt by Mr. Rozell, and the second was Mr. Twilliger. Mrs. Knight, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Schilling,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snead,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Siebert,
Yes.
Mr. Rozell.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted.
Thank you. I'm sorry, council, my hearing is a little bad, so please accept my apologies on that. Moving along to ordinances, Mrs. Knight, would you please read ordinance 052, 2020?
Ordinance number 052, 2020, an ordinance changing the zoning of parcel number D08250527 in the city of Troy, Ohio, from the zoning classification of M2 Light Industrial District to the zoning classification of B3 Central Business District. This is located 212 South Mulberry Street, has been recommended for approval by the Troy Planning Commission. Third reading.
Third reading. Council,
Move to adopt.
we have a motion by Mr. Schilling to adopt, and a second
Mr. Rozell.
was Mr. Rozell. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snead,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Siebert,
Yes.
Mr. Rozell,
Yes.
Mr. Schilling.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Moving along to ordinance 059, I'm sorry. Yes, moving along to ordinance 059, 2020.
Ordinance number 059, 2020. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Troy, Ohio, to execute the Dayton Power and Light Company grant for electric right-of-way and easement at Lincoln Community Center. This is the first reading.
Council, how do you wish to proceed?
Move to suspend.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Rozell and a second by Mr. Schilling to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snead,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Siebert,
Yes.
Mr. Rozell,
Yes.
Mr. Schilling,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer.
Yes. Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Schweizer and a second by Mrs. Snead. Mrs. Knight, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Twilliger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snead,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Siebert,
Yes.
Mr. Rozell,
Yes.
Mr. Schilling,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips.
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
Thank you. Moving along to ordinance 060, 2020.
Ordinance number 060, 2020. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Troy, Ohio, to enter into an amended lease with the Community Improvement Corporation of Troy, Ohio, regarding lease of the Lincoln Community Center facility and declaring an emergency. This will change the terms of the lease from 10 years with a 10-year renewal to just 20 years flatly stated. And also, again, refine some of the responsibilities of both parties. And this is the first reading.
Council, do you wish to proceed?
Move to suspend.
We have a motion by Mrs. Snead to
Suspend.
suspend the rules and a second by Mr. Rozell. Mrs. Knight, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Snead,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Rozell,
Yes.
Mr. Schilling,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger.
Yes.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Schweizer to adopt and a second by Mr. Rozell. Mrs. Knight, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Rozell,
Yes.
Mr. Schilling,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger,
Yes.
Mrs. Snead.
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted.
Thank you, ma'am. This closes the business portion of the meeting and moving along to communications and announcements. And tonight, Mayor Robin Oda, do you have any words of wisdom for us?
Is this our last meeting of the year?
This is the last meeting of the year.
So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Hope 2021 brings much health and financially and physically for everybody. And let's close out 2020 and keep moving.
Thank you very much. Director of Public Services Safety, Mr. Titterington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of reminders. First of all, December 25th and January 1st are the two dates that we do move trash and recycling pickup. Those are Fridays, so those who pick up those Fridays get it on Saturday. We will be collecting live Christmas trees after Christmas. They can't have anything on them. You need to strip all the ornaments and the tinsel and what have you. And they must be real Christmas trees to be mulched, so please keep that in mind. And then finally, I wanted to make note of the items of interest. And since the chief is here, congratulations to the police department getting their recertification, CLIA. It's a pretty big deal every time it happens, but this is the 27th year. So we've been doing it, trying to do it right for 27 years and counting.
Thank you, sir.
So I thank you.
Thank you. Director of Law, Mr. Kerber, do you have anything for us this evening?
I would just like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Friggy, our auditor, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing at this time.
As council president sitting in for Mr. Lutz, I would extend his wishes for a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I hope our crazy 2020 is only a short portion of 2021. So I wish everyone a Merry Christmas from my family and myself. Any council folks have any comments or this evening? No? Okay. As staff, does anyone from city staff have any comments or words of wisdom for us this evening? Seeing none. Anyone in the audience have anything they would like to add to the meeting tonight before we close? Seeing none, then we are adjourned, and thank you all for attending.
Have a good one.